All right, today I'm going to be talking about different test assessments and data that we've done for your student. We're going to call him Lee. Right here it says student initials. That's who we're talking about today, is Lee. And we're going to start off with check my progress, this one in the middle. Check my progress is something that we do with students every so often to see if they're getting their letters, being able to say their letters, upper and lowercase, saying the names of those letters, recognizing those sounds, being able to tell us the sounds, and saying their sight words. So really quick, letter recognition uppercase would be just being able to say those uppercase letters. If they see an A, being able to say A. Lee got 16 out of those 26, so he's getting closer to mastering all of those 26 uppercase letters. Next we have lowercase. He got 13, so this number is a little bit lower. Lowercase tend to be a little bit harder to recognize, so he has 13 out of 26 so far, which all of these numbers have increased since the beginning of the school year. Looking at letter sounds, that means looking at a letter and being able to tell us what sound it makes. So if they see an A, being able to respond, ah, ah. And Lee so far has 11 mastered out of those 26. So he's been able to recognize and tell us the sounds of 11 of the 26 letters in the alphabet. And then last, this little box right here is sight words. So far we have 11 sight words that we've gone over. During this Check My Progress, he was able to tell us 2. So this is an area that we will be working on where he looks at a sight word that is difficult or not able to sound out and being able to just tell us that. So with letter sounds, looking at sounds and being able to read words is one thing, but sight words are those kind of words that are a little bit more difficult because they don't follow the rules. So we will be working on that. Looking down at this bottom, Discovery Education. Discovery Education is given 4 times throughout the year. So this is the first initial one that we did back in October. These scores usually aren't too high for kindergarten just because they're first coming in. They haven't taken assessments like this before, and this is a baseline of data. So these numbers across the board with kindergartners are low because we want to see that growth throughout the year. But really quick, looking at the literature. So in literature that and informational are both looking at stories and listening to stories that we read to them and be able to think about certain questions that we ask them. Those questions could be about the character or the setting, the why and the how of the story. That might be under literature. Literature means different types of maybe pretend stories or things like that. Information are more not necessarily stories, but text about certain subjects. Like if it was about cars, then there might be a little text information box in there about cars that the students are read to about. And the same thing, they're asking them questions about what we're reading to them. So these are both comprehension questions that were being asked. He got 33%, which means that 1/3 of the questions he answered were correct. So 33% of those questions that he bubbled in were correct, leaving 2/3 that were not correct. Looking at foundations. Foundations is all of the letters and sounds and everything that we talked about up here. So looking at those letters, being able to say the sounds, looking at pictures, being able to talk about what sounds he hears in those words, and just moving those sounds around, recognizing sounds, all of that. That's foundations. Again, about 1/3 he got correct. Looking at language, it's a little bit lower, 25%, so about 1/4 he got correct. Language means that he's able to look at vocabulary words. So what do words mean? He's able to answer questions about what certain words mean. That's what language is. Next, looking at listening and speaking, he did better on this one. It was 50%, so he got half of those questions right on the speaking and listening. Speaking and listening is being able to think and recall information that he heard in a story. If the story talked about a brown cat, then if a question was asked about what color the cat was, he was able to tell us or record on his paper that it was brown. So those are like recall questions that he listened to during the story. And then this box is just repeating, talking about the literature that he did, 33%. Last, we're going to go up to the word meaning test and Dibble's test, which is up here in these boxes. WMT stands for word meaning test. So this is being able, those vocabulary words again, being able to hear a word and then explain to me what it means. For instance, if I said the word happy, he would take the word happy and explain it to me. Happy means how you feel, a way that you feel. So he actually got level 2 on this, which is wonderful. That means that he is on a grade level 2, so second grade. He's able to explain different second grade words. 4 of 5 means he was able to explain 4 out of 5 different words that were on second grade level. So that's really great. That means that he's able to explain himself well and he understands different words. Moving on to the Dibbles test. This is all the Dibbles test right here. Initial sound. That means that the first sound that he hears, looking at different pictures. If I show him a picture of the cat, then he should have said k, because that's the first sound that he heard. He got 10 sounds per minute, which means that in 1 minute he was able to look at 10 different pictures and correctly say that sound that it started with. 10 is getting up there. We need to keep pushing him to get more and more, and that would be building on his fluency. Next, letter naming fluency. That's the same as down here, letter recognition, looking at letters and knowing them. So being able to say the name. 68 is out of 100 that he was tested on. So comparing that to down there, again, we're just pushing him, trying to get all those letters, lowercase and uppercase, knowing those names. Moving on to word use fluency. This gets a little bit more difficult. That's giving him a word and being able to correctly use it in a sentence. So 21 is actually the amount of words that he used in a sentence. There were 8 words, and he was able to use 21 different words in those sentences. This he was able to use about 3 or 4 different sentences correctly, so he did a pretty good job on this. We need to keep working on taking words and be able to form complete sentences with them. For instance, if I gave him the word happy, he would respond to me, I am happy. That's a sentence that he could use that uses the word happy. Moving on to these last 2, phoneme segmentation fluency. That means I give him a word and he pulls it apart. He pulls the sounds apart. For instance, if I said hat, he would say back, at, pulling those sounds apart and being able to see which sounds he hears. He got 32 sounds out of the 72. So he's still working pretty hard to get up there, but we need to get closer to this 72 mark, hearing all of those sounds. And then this last part of Dibbles, nonsense word fluency. That means reading words that aren't really words, like hap, H-A-P. So being able to listen to those, or being able to recognize those letters, saying those sounds, and putting them together. So this is more difficult for kindergarten. This is what we are reaching towards, is reading those words and nonsense words like we see here. He has 49 CLS, which means correct letter sounds. This 49 is out of 144. So again, we're still working on making that number closer to 144 so that we do know he sees all the sounds and is able to start putting them together. WRC, he got 7 words correct. So he was able to take 7 of those nonsense words and say the whole thing, put all of the sounds together, which is good. This is a total of 50 words. So we are still working on it because he got 7 out of the 50. So we want to keep pushing that goal up to 50, trying to be able to sound out all those sounds and putting them all together. Overall, we're going to be working on recognizing the letters first and then moving on to sounds and sight words. So this is the most important foundation. We're working in kindergarten right now, is being able to look at a letter, know the sound, put the sounds together and create a word. So if you see the letter H-A-T, being able to think, at, and then putting it together to read at. He's been doing pretty well on his comprehension and word meaning and being able to explain himself and thinking about text. So our main focus right now is learning how to read, learning these sounds, putting them together, and being able to put them in sentences all together. So that's our goal for Lee for this next part of kindergarten. And if you have any questions, just let me know.